Life is beautiful, precious, and fragile. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow members, in 1997, at the height of the dot-com boom, my wife Terry and I were renting a house in Mountain View in the heart of Silicon Valley. Our landlord decided to take advantage of the situation by raising our rent by $650. Not to $650, but by $650. We decided that if we were going to be paying that kind of money, we should be building up some equity. So we started looking for a house to buy. We kept moving south until we found something that we both liked and that we could afford. That turned out to be in Gilroy, at the far south end of Santa Clara County. Gilroy is about 45 miles from the center of Silicon Valley. I quickly found that the best way to get to work in the midst of all the Silicon Valley traffic was to take the train. And that worked out well, because I could listen to podcasts on my iPod, I could listen to music on my iPod, I could listen to the radio, I could read, or I could even snooze. It worked out well. Now the Caltrain system runs from San Francisco all the way down to Gilroy. But Caltrain only owns the tracks from San Francisco to the south end of San Jose. Beyond that, South County, the three stops of Morgan Hill, San Martin, and Gilroy are all on Union Pacific tracks. And sometimes the Union Pacific dispatcher would decide that he would give priority to a freight train going through rather than to our little commuter train. Actually, more than sometimes. But still, for the most part, it worked out okay. And it was one normal weeknight evening, I don't remember what night of the week it was, that we were pulling out of the Morgan Hill station. And we had not pulled very far out of the station before there was a big bang. The train jolted. The lights in the passenger cabin flickered, and the train came to a stop. The conductor came in and said that we had hit a vehicle. He asked if one of the passengers would please call 911, as that was more efficient than using the dispatch system. Well, we waited, and we waited, and finally we were told that buses were being dispatched to take us to our respective train stations in San Martin and Gilroy. And we waited some more, and then we were told that the buses were there, but the authorities were not letting the buses onto the railway right-of-way. And finally, it must have been probably 2.5 hours, we were told the buses were there and we could get off the train. They told us to be careful in getting off the train. They said to grab onto the handrails on each side and step down backwards onto the ground, and they guided us by our elbows to make sure we got off okay. Let me tell you, if you don't have a platform, it's a long step down from a commuter passenger train. We got on the bus, and the bus took us over to Monterey Highway, which parallels the railroad tracks. And we were cruising down Monterey Highway when we came to a major intersection where the light was turning from yellow to red. The bus driver responded by leaning on the gas pedal and honking the horn and tearing through the intersection. The three of us who'd been on that train all that time were sitting at the back of the bus, and we all looked at each other and we shook our heads and rolled our eyes, and I said, I can see the headline. Passengers survive train wreck only to die in fiery bus crash. But we were fine. The bus took me back to the Gilroy Caltrain station, and I drove home where Terry had dinner and a scotch waiting for me. I love Terry. Over the next several days, the newspapers provided an account of what had happened. There was a car stopped at the grade crossing because the crossing arm had come down, the lights were flashing, and the bells were ringing. Behind the car was a pickup truck, driven by a male and with a female passenger next to him. And it turns out that this woman had had some difficulties in her life, but she was getting her act together. She had been in a vocational program and was in the process of starting a new, meaningful, and productive job. Well, the man was impatient, and I suspect somehow that he was angry somewhere in him as well. He did not want to wait, so he pulled over into the left lane, past the car that was sitting at the gate, at the crossing gate, and drove on to the railroad tracks where his pickup was broadsided by our train. The woman died at the scene. The man's injuries were so severe that he had to be airlifted to a hospital, and of course, he also faced multiple felony charges. I never learned whether he recovered from his injuries sufficiently to stand trial on those charges, but that woman's promising life was gone forever. The take home here is that life is beautiful and precious and fragile. Don't let anger or impatience drive you to actions that could be risky or dangerous or even fatal. Mr. Toastmaster.